Hey, this is Jason Moss of Georgia Manufacturing Alliance and Manufacturing News Network. And today, man, we got a great opportunity to talk with a longtime buddy of mine, Mr. Nathan McGill. And man, I could tell all kind of stories and tell you a little bit about his background, but I mean, if you know me, I'll probably butcher some stuff. So what I'm gonna do, man, is I'm gonna pitch this thing over to you. And there'll be a few folks that are watching this that don't know you. So I'd really like you to tell who you are and a little bit about your history.
Sure.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot right there, and that I'd like these guys to know about and kind of have a foundation of where this conversation is coming from. So take it away, bud.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, like Jason said, my name is Nathan. I've known Jason for a long time. He's really been my guru in industry, especially for manufacturing. But my family goes back in manufacturing, a very long time. Growing up, pretty much everybody in my family worked in automotive, with General Motors, UAW. I mean, we were a General Motors family, if you will.
Mhm.
So the
Right.
11th commandment was, "Thou shalt not buy anything other than a General Motors vehicle." Um, and it was my dad, it was my grandpa, it was my uncles, and it provided a nice life for us.
Mhm.
It was really a step up from the life that my dad had grown up in, and so him going to work in manufacturing got us to the suburbs and got a
Mhm.
pool dug in the backyard. And
Right.
I went to college on a UAW scholarship, which a lot of people don't know.
Right.
And so yeah, it was growing up in manufacturing, and then of course, as times go by, I actually went into the arts, because my family was hard workers, so I decided to be a slacker and go to art school. Um, I
Carry
went
on
to
that
film
tradition,
school.
right?
Yeah, just carry it on. Went the other way. But after getting into filmmaking and making 17 movies, a bunch of TV shows and documentaries, somewhere along the line we got to work on a project with you, American made movie, which was, I like to tell people it was Academy qualified just so they get the scale of, like, it was a nationally released documentary that was in the hunt that season. The Oscars are kind of like our Super
Hmm.
Bowl,
Right.
and nominations get really celebrated. We didn't get nominated. We were just qualified. We were kind of in the playoffs that year, if you will.
Hmm.
So, but it went really far. And it did a lot, and it did a lot, as you know, for the Made in the USA label resurgence that we saw after 2010, 2011, around that time. And so the film came out in 2013, went to
Hmm.
theaters, went on the dance, went on the tour, came out, and all that good stuff. And then over the last decade or so, I've transitioned from filmmaking into marketing, into solving problems that have to deal with the new changes with AI technology coming on board, continually podcasting and doing things
Hmm.
like that, and it's a good time. But more than anything, short story long is, love this country, love the American worker, love small businesses, love home services. Just
Hmm.
folks that can drive a truck and use a hammer. Don't let the filmmaker thing fool you.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Well, the
yeah,
filmmaker part is part of it for me, and our connection. But the magic. I think we're all gifted with stuff. Yeah, I keep
yeah.
looking for mine, but we all
Oh,
have
you
things that,
come on, man.
right.
Yeah,
We got
I've
we got
seen you in a
stuff to
room.
do. Yeah, yeah.
You've
Well,
come on a few college speaking tours,
mhm.
events with you're one of the best keynotes that I've seen, actually, Jason. I
Well, I
think
appreciate that. I appreciate
you
that
do
for
a
sure.
really you have a gift there.
Right. I'm not a great keynote speaker yet, but man, I'm working on it. I want to get there. But one of the things that I just admire most about you is your ability to 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 tie things together logically through a story that's compelling, that
Mm.
brings, I mean, because man, I got the attention span of a gnat. I can connect, hours good for me, but your ability to be able to weave things together and connect the dots and communicate. with all different kinds of people. And for, your history and some of the movies that you've done, the documentaries and that kind of thing. I love the diversity of the product that you've put out, but your ability, the thing that connects them all together again is your storytelling ability. Your and for those of you that have not seen this, I would encourage you to go and watch it today. The American Made movie. Where can people find that?
It's actually on YouTube now.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
over a decade old, so I'll shoot you a link and you
Okay,
can put it in the show notes.
perfect.
But yeah, it's out there. So
Yeah, and you'll be able to hear this great voice telling the story because he actually narrates through the movie, and it really does, it ties it all together. When I think about the voice of manufacturing, nationwide, but for sure here in Georgia, I think I can hear Nathan in the background,
oh well,
telling the story, and it's really cool because I've had so many people over the years come back and tell me that they have a different perspective on manufacturing and the importance of buying stuff local after they
yeah,
watch the movie because they never really think that, everything that they walk by in the store, if they go by a store, in the mall or in Walmart, people don't think that, hey, that stuff has to be manufactured or made somewhere, and the people that are attached to it. I think that's really the biggest piece that the movie connects to is the stories behind the stories that how
that's right.
those things came to life. And
Yeah,
but yeah, that's
yeah.
that's a big tool that you bring to the table, and
Well,
that's one of the things I want to help people understand how maybe they can have some takeaways from today, how they can use story in whatever it is that they're doing.
yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I think it's about connection and it's about finding the emotion in some of the things that, we talk about because we're so used to talking about our industry with
Hmm.
industrial language, right? So
Right.
we're in the know and that serves us really well when we're inside of our industries because, obviously we want to seem like we know what we're talking about. So we end up using a lot of big terms that takes us a while to learn.
Hmm.
While Mama and them out there on the street, they have no idea what we're saying half the time until we break it down on like, how does this impact me? And
Right.
it is actually something that me and you both were talking about early on in those days. Like, first of all, if you rewind the clock, people have to remember that back in 2008, 2009, even 2010, there was not a lot of made in the USA
Mm-mm.
branding out there anymore. I mean,
Right.
the big box stores had pretty much moved to foreign goods because they were cheap and they could buy them in bulk
Hmm.
and America didn't care too much.
Hmm.
We weren't thinking about it. It snuck
Right.
up on us. The Made in the USA label was something on Grandpa's truck, but we didn't
Hmm.
we didn't think about it. And back in those days, you started out with a program, at least with you didn't start out, but you had a program back then early on that was called Vote with Your Wallet.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing your campaign there, and it was sort of the strategic point that we wanted to make in the film because when we were first starting the development to talk about how do we talk about made in America goods, how do we get back the label, how do that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to make change. We wanted to make people think about this. And I remember us being from the same community, seeing your campaign for Vote with Your Wallet, trying to get people
Hmm.
to think about, goods made in America, goods made in Georgia, the people behind your products. There was a lot of the early fibers of the light bulb going off in my head because of what you were doing that
Hmm.
said, um, "Oh wow, this is it. We're not going to go towards the left. We're not going to go towards the right. Everyone is not a Democrat or a Republican, but everyone is a consumer, and
Right.
everyone literally can vote with their wallet. And if we can show people the impact, the spillover effect that manufacturing has, that lifestyle that I grew up with and enjoyed my childhood, um, because of manufacturing, like that's what happens to towns that have great, robust manufacturing. And what happens when a manufacturer leaves a city is devastating and heartbreaking. And
Yeah.
so telling both sides of that story and also making a pitch to the big box stores and the retailers and everyone else, you can make a political argument, but it's much better to
Mhm.
go, hey, no,
Right.
rising demand, marketing the American worker is free. You don't
Hmm.
have to pay a celebrity to endorse your products.
Right.
Make stuff in the USA, put out your signage, let's go for it. And of
Hmm.
course, throughout the progression of the movement and getting think tanks to talk to one another and seeing that movement grow, um, and it was a course of 5, 6 years of hard work, and you were there every step of the way, Jason.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just as much yours as it is mine, really. You
Yeah.
were filling the chairs in Georgia. You had, you would bring in people, groups, speakers. You
Hmm.
were, you were a panelist many times, bringing in manufacturers for us to talk to. Um, and over time, like you started to see the change
Yeah.
happen, and then you started
Yeah.
seeing Walmart making $1 billion commitment, and even Walmart coming to the first Georgia Manufacturing Expo. I don't know if
Hmm.
it was the first or the
Yeah.
second, but it was early on,
Yeah.
and even talking about the impact of all these different things. I mean, it was the start of a movement. It was certainly not any one of us that created it, but it was something I felt like God was doing at the time, and we
Oh
all
yeah.
just got to be a part of it. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was significant. I think
Oh yeah.
when I go into a store now and I look at it and I see made in the USA stuff and I point it out to my kids,
Hmm.
they were just being born while the movie
Yeah.
was
They're
being filmed.
little.
So
Yeah.
they don't remember a life before that. And
Right.
that's great. I love that. I love I can look at that and smile and maybe didn't make a whole lot of money off of it, but we made a
Mhm.
difference.
Yeah, that's what matters. I mean, you mentioned Walmart. That's actually for me. That's where it started. So I was in software sales. I was selling 3D CAD software called SolidWorks to manufacturing companies, and I had gotten back into that industry at the perfect time in 2008. You remember
Right.
what was going on in the economy
I remember it.
2007, 2008. And software sales was having a little bit of a hiccup, people buying software that they didn't have to have that day with the
Yeah.
economy taking a dive. And I was sitting in the Walmart parking lot in Lawrenceville listening to the radio and the woe is me and the sky's falling and the world's going to come to a screeching halt because the economy fell off a cliff, right? And it wasn't
Hmm.
like it was a slow gradual thing. It was immediate. 2008, bam, it hit, and everybody was freaking out. They're like, what are we
Hmm.
going to do now? Are we going to be able to survive this thing? and
Yeah.
and the stimulus thing just came out, and everybody got loaded up with some cash, and I was literally driving around in the parking lot trying to find a place to park in this massive parking lot. Finally got one, and I sat there for a minute listening to the radio. Man, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull it out as a nation. What are we going to do next? And I was watching these buggies coming out of the Walmart, slap full, mounded oak. And they're saying the economy's bad. And that was not clicking for me. That wasn't adding up. I was like,
Yeah.
well, if the economy is that bad and we're still spending money like this, there's a disconnect, right? So if we want to, and what we were doing, we were boxing our money up, putting it in containers and shipping it right over to China. And I got mad. I was like, man, this is not cool. Something needs to be done. So I started walking around Walmart. I was looking, I was like, how many products are made here? And that's sort of where the thought came from. And that's actually where the name came from, with vote with your wallet. Because every time you pull your wallet out to make a purchase, you're voting to grow a job somewhere. And are we
Yeah, you
growing it
are.
in our backyard, or are we growing it outside of the country? And if we don't know the products that were made, and I went around for years and still do it occasionally, I'll pull out my wallet, pop $100 bill, and just pop it in front of the room and get people's attention. And say,
Yeah, I remember you doing that.
I'll give this to the first person that can name 5 products that you know by brand name that are made in the USA or made in Georgia. I do it made in Georgia. And I did that literally thousands of times in front of every crowd I could gather. If it was 2 or more, buddy, I did that challenge. And it wasn't to impress people how many I knew, but it was to impress upon them how few they knew.
Right.
And when you give somebody and say, I'll give you $100 if you can name 5 products you know are made in Georgia by brand name, it gets really quiet and
Yeah.
it's really awkward. And I've only given one of those away, and it happened to be to a commercial realtor that specialized in manufacturing properties at the Rotary in Gainesville, and there was 300 people in a room. But that's the only one I've ever given away. And but it gets us to think, hey, if we want to live in a country that has good manufacturing and manufacture stuff, we need to buy stuff that's made here. But the kind of the first step was to find out
Yeah.
where the products are and what is actually made here. And so that
Yeah.
was the foundation for me kind of getting into it from a manufacturing perspective. And we did the summit for 2 years, which was consumer facing. I found out that the business model on that did not work out, was not, sustainable. So I ended up, I had been running the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance, which is our association for manufacturers. And I decided I would spin it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to get back to serving manufacturers. And we changed it to the summit. We did the summit for 6 years.
Right.
And that was a blast. 2020, we were scheduled to have over 1,000 people attend the summit. And things are going great
2020
now. But
happens.
yeah, and then our little buddy COVID showed up, and it changed the game for everybody. For those of us in the events business, it changed it a lot, right? We
Right.
know how that works. But that being said, the lessons that I learned, I still got those, and I'm excited to announce on this call that we're going to have the Georgia Manufacturing Summit in 2026. Yeah,
Let's
yeah, I am
go.
stoked, man. People have been begging to get this thing back on, and so we'll be doing it September 15th, 2026 at Cobb Galleria. We
That's
we have
great.
limited tickets on it because they're renovating the space,
Mm,
but they have been great partners with us for years. Every year we did it at the Galleria. Great folks out there. And so we're going to do it again there. Although we do have limited seating, I'm really excited to see what the 2026 thing looks like. So
yeah.
fun times.
Absolutely. I'm curious to ask you what do you think the major changes are in manufacturing from the pandemic to today? If you've seen any like interesting trends
Mhm.
out there, is
Yeah,
there
labor.
anything that
Yeah,
comes to mind?
yeah, labor is still an issue across the board. The issue with labor is still, not just people drilling holes and bolting things together. But the technology, AI is
Mm,
coming along. It's really neat to see that. Some people are freaked out by it. They're just
yeah.
stressed about, hey, this thing's going to take my job. But I've been using it some, and in part, thanks to you for giving me some insights on how it actually is supposed to work. Uh, but really seeing the application, and I've been drilling down with all of the manufacturers I work with to say, give me some case studies, things that you have done where you've seen success in manufacturing and
Right.
how it can benefit your company. And dude, I've been blown away to see the results that people are having. So, and I mean, we got some winners and some losers. Some guys said, "Well, I tried it for this and didn't work
Didn't
out too
work.
good." But
Yeah.
that's the foundation of GMA is we want to make sure that we provide opportunities for people to learn best practices from each other rather than having to learn those brutal things all by yourself. So
Yeah, it's so tough. I mean, even though you could probably go into Chat GPT and ask it like the some of the questions of like how do I best use you in
mhm,
manufacturing? There's nothing like person to person information from facilitators who are in the room who have been trying to execute on, whatever their key objective is. Right? Because manufacturers have very, similar KPIs for the most part. So
mhm,
when in using AI, I think the networking superpowers, how to use it correctly and how to use it in a way that doesn't like displace workers, directly,
right.
every single time, but more so, how do we get more business?
Mhm,
So I think on the marketing side, and I think on the messaging side, some of the things that we've already talked about a little bit is when you can use it to create more demand for your product, that's going to create some good problems.
oh
And
yeah.
you just have the get to the dance first. The thing that we're working on right now with home service businesses, especially, and some healthcare businesses too, because we want to make sure that people can find the closest urgent care, find the closest rural hospital, whatever the situation is. People are going to chat and they're going to even when they go to Google and they type in a question, hey, I got a leak in my roof, or I got a plumbing issue, or whatever that it
Mhm,
is. They're asking a question into the search bar, And
Right.
instead of searches coming up, I mean, they still do come up, but also the AI answer comes up. And
Right.
so what that generates is no clicks whatsoever because people either get their answer and
Right.
they read it and they don't click on anything,
Hmm.
or they, get bypassed by, they're spending all this time on SEO and then they kind of miss the fact, oh, what makes me show up in Chat GPT? And so I think that's something for manufacturers as much as
Oh
everybody
yeah.
else. It's like, we know to do all these SEO things, but how do
Right.
we what do we need to do to show up on chat? And now Chat
Mm.
GPT has launched a brand new browser.
Okay.
So if people are not going to your
Huh.
Safari or whatever, and
Right.
they're now using Chat GPT as the browser, yesterday there's been some studies on it, and I'm not 100% expert because I'm just reading stuff like everybody else right now.
Right.
But, when chat jumps on your website, it could read like a human click, and if you're paying for clicks.
Hmm.
I don't know what I'm saying is the world's
Interesting.
changing, and
Yeah.
we gotta start focusing on it more so than I can just use this to generate content,
Hmm. Yeah.
and make some things, which is a great way to use it, especially for social media and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's all this stuff on the back end of the websites and making sure that you can retain employees and making sure that you can jump out there.
Well, tell me what all you're doing. I mean, tell me a little bit about some of the stuff that you got on your plate right now. I know
I got
you're
a
using your talents and skills in different ways. For
Yeah.
those of y'all don't know, I hijacked him for a day, and he came over and hung out with me for a day and gave me some great lessons and all sorts of neat things, and we were been able to produce some nice new product. But what else are you get? What are you doing? What are you bringing to the market these days?
Yeah, well, we're working on some things old, some things new.
Okay.
So, some things are entertainment based, where we've got a streaming show about healthcare that I'm working
Hmm.
on with the old business partner Vincent, who you remember
Yeah.
that worked on American Made Movie with me
Hmm.
and all the movies with me. He was my business partner for a long time.
Yeah.
So we're working on a streaming show right now for wellness and health, kind of
Oh,
in healthcare world. So it fits in and then really just serving new clients as a creative and marketing company. So starting a new venture, a new partnership, a new company that's forming right now. So should be like humming by January, I think.
hmm.
But I like to just jump in the ground running. So we sign clients first
Right.
this time.
Yeah.
And so we're not working on our own website. We're not making our own videos. We're not even really talking about what we're calling the company yet because
Hmm.
I think it's kind of fun to just start working and then see what hits, see
Right.
what the demand is, and especially when you're focused on AI and the changes happen every single day.
Oh
So
yeah.
for the last few months, I've been talking about AEO, which is answer engine optimization, and
Okay.
it takes things like this podcast that we're on and really makes podcasts even more important because not only does the AI large language models like love video, but anytime you can put anything in a question and answer format and you can ask questions, like every company's got that frequently asked questions page. You probably have some other content on your website that is maybe your most popular content, but it's probably
Hmm.
in a blog format that SEO used to use.
Right.
And sometimes you can just grab that material and talk about it on a podcast and make everything Q&A and then put the transcription on your website. And those pages start to show up a lot
Really?
easier inside of
Huh.
chat. So that's a good hack. Um, and we're telling people also to focus on their backlinks and focus on
Okay.
what's the organizational strength. So for example, very practical example for your listeners, Georgia
Mhm.
Manufacturing Alliance, is a third party website that tells people about your manufacturing business. And
Right.
so those links that are on GMA, and Jason did not ask me to say this, but any sponsored content, any
Hmm.
advertising, anything that you can do, come be a guest on the podcast, anything that ends up on his website as a credible website. And I could brag on you, Georgia Trend. I mean, hey, we got a top 10 author in our presence now.
Right.
But Georgia Manufacturing Alliance has been around for how many years now?
17 years. Yeah.
17 years. So
Yeah.
when your company's on websites like that, that helps chat because chat's searching the internet and it's going to prioritize those backlinks from Jason's site even more so than the website you created for your business.
Hmm.
And so the more of that you can do, the better. So when you Jason show up on Georgia Trend, like
Hmm.
that is a really really good thing. Um, and I'm also still a big fan of folks that I used to work with at Best of Gwinnett and Best of Georgia,
Hmm.
and spent some time in marketing and publishing with those guys. Those kinds of businesses
Right.
actually help people show up in more searches across the web, and that is really good for chat. So
Yeah.
those are really good things. And I'm not even working with them any longer, so I can say that
Hmm.
100%. Like, what? That's a
Yeah.
major prop. They
Right.
that works, and I'm
Yeah.
telling you that works. So backlinks, changing your content to Q&A, maybe
Hmm.
launching your own podcast, answering questions that your customers have. Those
Okay.
are the questions that they're putting into chat. And where a search might be maybe 4 or 5 words when you're going to Google and you're searching for something, usually a prompt in ChatGPT is like 28 words, or it's a paragraph, or
Okay.
it's
Right.
they're talking like a conversation.
Yeah.
So
If
that's
you're
why
doing it right.
sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're giving it like, both instruction for what you want it to give you. But if you're looking for like, hey, I've got a leak underneath my sink and this is happening. And then, when
Hmm.
I move this nozzle, I'm gonna take a picture of it for you, snap, it's not working right. How do I fix this? And then it's gonna go searching on sites. And if you're the plumber that had that on an FAQ and you answered that kind of question, it's gonna find you based on, common words and all these different things that what you said, and it'll answer them very conversationally of, hey,
Hmm.
here's how you fix it, or here's who you call to fix it.
Yeah.
So that stuff's really fun, and I jumped on it early because in the business that I've been in entertainment and technology and marketing and media,
Hmm.
technology just changes every 4 or 5 years, and you win some, you lose some. Like I
Yeah.
won when everything was going towards documentary film. I kind of rose that resurgence in popularity for documentaries for certain years in the early 2000s, right up to that 2008 recession. In 2008, things started to change from DVD sales to online streaming and
Right.
things like that. And so that kind of really impacted the business that I was in, that technology shift. But I
Hmm.
was so focused on TV and films and putting a movie in the theaters and getting it on DVD and getting it into Walmart and getting it into Blockbuster, and these, a lot of these places are out of business now.
Hmm.
Um, that meant so much that I completely, honestly, just missed social media.
Right.
Just, Facebook, had some friends, but I didn't care nothing about YouTube. YouTube wasn't
Hmm.
real to me. If you weren't on TV or on the movie screen,
Doesn't count. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't count in my mind. How do you make money from that? Well,
Right.
now we know it's
Right. Yeah.
I missed it because
Yeah.
everybody is making bank right there. So when
Hmm.
I saw the AI stuff start to change industries and start to change how creative firms did their work, and started to see folks who have written novels not be worth
Hmm.
their, am I going to hire, I mean, he's a great writer, but ChatGPT can kind of
Right.
do this in 5 seconds, and it's
Hmm.
not that different. It's a lot more free. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
you just see it and you're like, oh, I've seen this before. Being a 45-year-old guy is like, oh, well, I gotta, well, crap, almost I didn't
Hmm.
want to change, but I knew that
Hmm.
if I didn't jump and start to change immediately, then it was going to catch me.
Yeah.
And in a few years, me and you'd be talking about regrets right now.
Right. That's one thing. That's one thing I want to challenge everybody to do is, I mean, I'm blessed with the ability to, if I lay my head down at night tonight and I'm done, I'm thankful. I know where I'm going, and I also know that I won't ever look back and say I wish I would have tried. right?
Right.
My wife has been very supportive with me. I wake up on the good side of that deal every day, and she puts up with my crazy ideas. And sometimes she has to reel me back in a little bit, which is fine. I need somebody for that. Um, but
Me
but
too.
but being able to try stuff, and you were talking about the changes in AI and changes in technology and stuff, and it was the Betamax versus VHS, right?
I
If you
remember
picked
that.
the
Yeah.
wrong horse, okay, well, where are we at now? And then we went to
True.
8 tracks and CDs and all the stuff, and it changes and changes and changes. And I'm one of those weird folks that likes change. I'm like, if my attention span, that's
Right.
that size, right? I'm really good at getting stuff cranking and getting it going. But if I've done it, I love the thrill of figuring it out.
Yeah.
And then if I do it twice, it's okay. And by the third or fourth time, I'm bored to tears.
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
found that not everybody is made that way. You just assume that if you're wired up one way, you just assume that the rest of the world looks at life like you do. And there was a really good book I read called Rocket Fuel. If you've not read Rocket Fuel, go read Rocket Fuel because it will give you a new perspective on the way that minds work. Now, it is business
Wow.
based, but it is so solid. It gives you neat insights of what works and what doesn't, and how people are wired and how they're not. I read it. I'll tell you the little backstory how I got. I was talking to a guy, a potential sponsor of GMA, and I was asking for a pretty big check, right? Pretty bold going in where I was at, but I went into his office and sat down with him and we had this little chat. And he was like, "Well, Jason, tell me what you got in mind." And I started telling him about some of the stuff I've done. He's like, "Don't worry about telling me about anything you've done. We know what you've been doing for the past 10 years. We're good with that." So drop that. And I was like, well, it's kind of weird, but okay. So you done your research. He said, well, tell me what you're going to do, what you're
Right.
planning. Like if we do the sponsorship, what's it going to look like? And I
Right.
was like, I was like, man, I can't wait until somebody asked me that question because I was like, these are all the bits and pieces, and this is the stuff I got in mind. And I know some of
Yeah.
it's going to work and some of it's not, but the only way we're going to know is to do it. And the guy pushed back from his desk and he was like, Jason, he said, you might be one of the most visionary people I've ever met. And that pissed me off. I was like, really? You're
What?
gonna, I just rolled all this stuff out. And now what I heard
Uh,
was you're a crazy dreamer and that's not going to work.
yeah.
That's what I heard.
Right.
As
That's what
compared
you
to what
heard.
he said, he was like, you
Yeah.
seem like you've taken offense to that. And I'm like, no, no, I kind of have. I'm like, don't you think this stuff gonna work? He's not. No, he's absolutely that stuff will work. That's great ideas. Visionary. Let's reframe what visionary means. You need to go read this book. And so
Mm,
he said, buy it on the way home. And
okay.
I did leave that day with a nice big fat check, and it was a great day. He said, we're going to do this either way. I get it that you're going to do it. We'll sort it all out. It's great. But he said, you really need to get this so you can see where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
But Rocket Fuel was the book that he recommended.
Man, that's great. I'll,
And I
I'll
was
read
like,
it too,
oh,
right
dude, it
after
is
this for sure.
awesome.
You're right
And I
though.
listened to it on the way home. I downloaded Audible and listened to it. And I read the book. And the fun part about that is my wife is not into, I mean, she loves to read, but she doesn't read business books. She reads all sorts of other stuff. But um, I said, like, we got to be on the same page on this. This is impactful. And oh, by the way, did you see this check? Right? I mean, that's kind of how
Hmm.
encouraged her to read it. So we were driving down the Waycross, is where she's from. We were driving down the Waycross, and she was reading a book, and I was trying to be quiet because I know that it was like, man, I just wanted to talk to her about it so bad I couldn't stand it. But she was reading through the book, and there was like two or three places where she laughed out loud, and I was like, I know exactly where she's at in the book because it talks about the different personalities and that the visionaries aren't really crazy. It's it's okay. We're just different than the integrators.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
anyway, so but I would encourage anybody that's breathing to read that book. My three, Bible's first, number two is Jim Rohn's Seasons of Life. That's my favorite book, second to the Bible, and then third, Rocket Fuel. No matter where
Mm,
you're at in business, it just helps you see things from a different vantage point. So tell
that's
me what's
everything.
some of the stuff that you're reading. What are you reading
Yeah.
these days or digging into?
Whew. I'm reading Main Street Millionaire right now, Cody Sanchez. It is a dense business book that actually goes down and talks about terms of how to
Okay.
buy Main Street businesses. So there's some crazy you might if you unless you want to read about seller financing, you might not. But here's
Right.
something that happens, and this actually does relate to manufacturing, is that for years we talked about the silver tsunami, and we've talked about these boomers that are retiring, and
Hmm.
in terms of manufacturing, we see that in workforce development. Like, how are we going to train and replace all of the workers exiting the workforce? A part of
Right.
that's going to be handled by technology,
Hmm.
perhaps, but a lot of it's not. And so we've seen that in manufacturing. Well, now you go to the home service businesses of a lot of folks who started family businesses, but their kids don't want to run the businesses. And
Right.
so what ends up happening is they have a choice of they can, do everything they need to do and sell it to private equity, run it for a couple of years into their retirement and cash out, or they could, sell the business to an operator that wants to keep their brand, wants to keep their
Hmm.
values, wants to run it the way it should be run, wants to help grow it, wants to throw some additional marketing into it to maybe double its size or something like that. And then you have a legacy brand. And
Hmm.
a lot of
Yep.
the entrepreneurs, what happens is, it's astounding, but they don't know what to do to sell to private equity. They don't know anybody in that world. They start
Right.
getting sucked into talking to a lot of people that,
Hmm.
every industry has got like the curse of, like, if you don't know what you're doing, then there's always these sharks in the water that are
Yes.
going
Yep.
to manipulate and take advantage of you.
Hmm.
Like, that happens across industries, especially happened in filmmaking coming up, because they were there to make sure you didn't even get to the guy. You're going to
Right.
spend a bunch of money on, just useless stuff in the middle. And that's kind of what's happening to these guys as they start to navigate, what are they going to do with their business? And a lot of times they just work it until they're dead and it goes out
Right.
of business when they do.
Yep.
Or they don't ever think about a succession plan, or they don't have a plan in mind. They don't know how to do it. And so it ends up just actually getting shut down and they retire, but
Right.
the business closes.
Then it's just
And
done. Yeah.
and this is, like my wife's grandparents ran a automotive shop that rebuilt alternators in
Hmm.
Columbus, Georgia, and they ran as far as they could. The founder, her grandpa, passed away. The
Hmm.
uncle ran it for many, many years. He passed away, but a couple years before they did sell the business. But it's just one of those moments. So I'm talking about this because that's happening at scale. So that
Hmm.
where we're aging up, there's all these opportunities out there, and for kids trying to figure out what they're going to do for a living, um, these types of businesses are actually great options. And they might not think about it this way, but they are great options if you can find the businesses to think about buying, because instead of going to work for somebody else in the world today, you could literally work out, a deal or an option with to go in and do something like this. So
Yeah.
instead of starting your own landscaping business or plumbing business, which I feel like a lot of younger folks are going to want to start doing as AI starts to take all the creative jobs off the market, and it
Hmm.
will. I have no doubt about that. It already has.
Yeah.
Um, you know, they're going to look at things that are solid like plumbing and roofing and things like that,
Hmm.
and those markets have businesses that are making millions each year with nobody to run them. So you want to find yourself in that business. Our
Hmm.
mutual friend Clyde Strickland, who helped out with American Made Movie, and just a good mentor, runs a company called Metro Waterproofing. Always told me, he said, the fastest way to get in charge of a business is to go work for somebody else and then take over when they retire.
Yeah.
I was like, hey,
Hmm.
probably not wrong, because most
Right.
businesses you start die in 5 years. You
Right.
know, so
Yeah.
anyway, that book, Main Street Millionaire, I found it through a podcast. I listened
Hmm.
to a lot of Story Brand. obviously in the marketing space. So she appeared on Donald Miller's podcast not too long ago, and I scooped
Okay.
it up and started reading that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I've gone back to a lot of the basics too with faith. You know, been I've been constantly recycling purpose driven life lately. Old book, Rick Warren. Um, but for devotionals and things like that, I kind of
Right.
going back to that a lot. Sometimes you just need some foundational stuff,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah. So that's pretty much where I'm at today.
Yeah, yeah.
My book.
Timeless truths never change. You know, the Bible foundation, again, that Seasons of Life, I go back and read that a couple times a year just because it kind of helps frame you into where things are at.
Yeah,
There's some really cool stuff that's coming down the pipe. In the manufacturing space, we talked a little bit about SEO, and we circle back around to that side of it. You had talked about SEO and AEO, is that right?
yeah, right.
Answer engine optimization. I've been surprised over the years how many manufacturers and members of GMA have come back to us to say, I don't know what you're doing, but you keep coming up above our natural ranking in the company. So how do you do that? And I'm like, well, I'm not real sure, but we do. We got a lot of content out there. We've been pushing a lot of people and making the connections, and at least you're number two, right?
Yeah,
For your own
yeah,
company. But I want to be able to help our manufacturers plug into that as well. I mean, to be able to help them be at the top in the search engines and the Chat GPT or
sure.
whatever AI search stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to learning more from you on that because I know
yeah.
that's
Well,
going. I think that'll be a differentiator for a lot of folks.
yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be. I mean, every one of these companies and businesses has a marketing department, and they're trying to dig in. But there's different kinds of marketing guys. You know, there's everybody's data driven to a certain extent, but some are more creative than others if they delve into the advertising piece as well. But some of the things just get strategically missed because you're thinking in house. It's like how can we improve our SEO? How can we get the keywords right? We're focused on our blogs. Really, like sometimes it's as simple as let's reallocate some of this ad spend to a PR person, and
Okay.
let's make sure we're getting in the news regularly for our business.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
let's make sure that we're sponsoring events. But when they talk about sponsoring events, they don't think about it correctly. They think of like, okay, well, what's my ROI when I come to sponsor the Georgia Manufacturing Expo? Like,
Mhm.
what am I going to land a deal or two? Well, you're a manufacturer, so if you land one deal, you're
Right.
probably going to pay for your sponsorship, and we could talk about it that way. But even more importantly, like if you're paying to be mentioned every single time that Georgia Manufacturing Alliance is mentioned, knowing that their SEO is higher than yours, then the
Hmm.
phone call isn't like, how can I do this? It's like, how can I sponsor you? And
Right.
that's the wrong question to ask is how can I fix my SEO to be like Georgia Manufacturing Alliance? Well, first of all, you probably are never going to get there. And the reason you're never going to get there is because Georgia Manufacturing Alliance, in terms of awards, in terms of them talking about other businesses, they are ending up on other people's websites every single day in your market, in your industry. And so if you really want to get out there, the call isn't, how did you do that? The call is, how
Mhm.
do I sponsor you? And
Right.
well, what's the ROI? Well, the ROI is that you're going to be out there and it's going to start bouncing around, and you really got to there's some level that you can totally afford to get into. So
Right.
it's just a matter of looking at it and going, well, that's working. I think we do that a lot. I feel like being more collaborative instead of
Mhm.
competitive with each other
Yeah.
is more important than ever.
Yeah.
But there's really no competition. Like it's a figment of our imagination in some
Hmm.
sense. Like
Okay.
unless somebody's trying to come after you directly, which is more of like an attack. It's not real
Right.
true competition.
Right.
Everybody's trying to be the market leader, but the markets that we're in are pretty big. And I know a lot of people probably disagree with me on this, but the way that you treat your competitors and market leaders and the people underneath the market, determine whether you're going to be competitive or collaborative with those
Hmm.
businesses.
Yeah.
When you find yourself in the room together and you're willing to share best practices and some of the events that you facilitate, even, are you going on a tour and you're learning like, oh, this is how they did this. That makes everybody better.
You're right.
And when the market starts to shift or something starts to change, it's better to have a friend in your corner than it
Mhm.
is to have somebody who's bent on dominating you because you were a jerk, you know?
Yeah,
and
it's funny you mentioned that. When I first started GMA, February of '08, I kicked this thing off. It was just a wild idea. Hey, how can I sell more software effectively was what I was looking to do. And how can I get manufacturers together? Because I had been in a previous life in network marketing. Yeah, I
I
was
read
in,
it. That is one book I'm reading right now. I forgot to mention.
yeah,
There is it's on networking. This guy wrote it, and it's on Amazon. It's very good.
really,
It's
really.
very good.
Tell me a little bit more
You got,
about
you got
that.
Jason Moss. He wrote
Yeah,
this book,
really.
Manufacturing Your Network. Man, game changer.
No way. No way. Well, actually, there's part of that story in the very first chapter of this little book right here that
There
it's
you go.
shocker. It's right there.
Nice
Uh,
segue.
but and it talks actually the forward talks about I'll never forget my first time.
Yes, that's right. Tell that
Yeah,
story. Do you mind telling that
yeah,
story?
yeah.
Because I remember, and just so y'all know, this book that Jason wrote is, his secrets and network. He's the best networking person that I know, period, and always has been. And you helped mentor me in a way, just as a friend over the years, especially in the early days of that mammoth American made movie project. Of just
Hmm.
like when I get people in the room, like, what do I do with them?
Right.
We had 32 chambers of commerce across the country. We had technical colleges everywhere. The plan that actually pulled all that stuff together. And we're talking think tanks,
Hmm.
in DC on K Street.
Yep.
You really helped. The stuff in the book is really some of the same things that me and you were talking about in those days where you're like, okay, this is the way you want to do this, or this is the way you
Hmm.
want to approach this. But, everybody's been in that room where they feel like they're not seen and it's useless, and you got your business
Hmm.
cards. Tell the story of your
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah, that's it was something that we learned by either experience. Either we win or we lose, and some people say, well, you never lose. Well, sometimes you get kicked in the teeth a couple times. It's not
That's
fun.
right.
You can call it a lesson if you want to, but
Win or learn
yeah, we
with
are
less.
learning. But I had gotten out of the military. I had been loading bombs on F-16s. There wasn't a lot of demand for that out on the marketplace, and I had got into
Right.
software sales, and I took a little sabbatical from software sales and got into network marketing. And one of the when I got out of was in that space, they said you need to go sell this product to your friends and family. Well, I had just got out of the military. I didn't. I mean, I had some friends in the military, but they weren't in Gwinnett County, Georgia.
Right.
So I didn't know anybody in Gwinnett. My family was south of down in McDonough, south of Atlanta. So I didn't have friends and family. I was just like plunked in here via helicopter, right? There was nobody done it. But they said you need to go get some friends and family. And I'm like, well, I'm a pretty amicable kind of guy. I believe I could figure that out. But what's the best way to do it? They said go to Chamber of Commerce. Dude, I didn't even know what a Chamber of Commerce was. I'd never, I mean, that had
Right.
not showed up on my radar anywhere. Looked it up, found out, made a phone call. They said, we got a meeting on Thursday morning. Come on down. Thursday morning, 7 o'clock. I got the address, navigated over there, sitting in the parking lot. I'm like, I really don't know what I'm doing or what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm going to figure this thing out. Walked in the door, nice little lady standing behind the thing, and there's a bunch of name badges there. And she said, here. She said, you must be new here. I'm like, well, yes, I am. And she said, here. And she gave me a Sharpie and a name badge. And she said, well, welcome. And I had thought about bolting, but if she hadn't have been so nice, I'm like, I'm already here. I got to figure this thing out.
Right.
So, I looked around the room and there was like little pockets of people, little 3 or 4 people in a group just hanging around the room. And usually there was one person in the group that was talking, and everybody was just intrigued by whatever it was that they were saying, and they were just talking and jabbering, and there's a lot of coffee going around. And I was like, I
Right.
don't know what to do or what to say or anything around this, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to mix in and figure this thing out. And Fortunately, they said, okay, we're going to get the meeting started. Because I was like, I did not have any small talk. I didn't, my conversations about bomb loading was not going to take me far in that room because there's
Right.
not a lot of people that could relate to that, I'm pretty sure. But they started doing this thing and then they introduced the first speaker. They had 7 minutes to brag about all the stuff that they were doing. I was like, well, this is pretty cool. Learn about what's going on in the community and products that are being sold here, and then they said, okay, well, since we only have 100 people in the room, what we're going to do is we're going to increase it from 30 seconds to 45 seconds. And everybody got excited and, cheered about that. And I didn't know what that was all about. But then they started handing a microphone to the person in the front of the room. He
Mm.
said, hey, my name is blah, 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 and my company is blah, 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 blah. And a good referral to me looks like. And that was
Oh,
pretty
wow. Great.
consistent across the front row. And then the second row, there was one dude that was singing. He sung his thing. And then there was one guy that was chanting and one guy that was holding up props. And it was getting kind of weird as the room was going through. And I was like, man, what am I going to do here? And
Wow.
I was sitting in the back of the room. And I'm like, there's 100 people that I'm about to, please, Lord, don't let me screw this up in front of these 100 people. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I did have some business cards. And I was like, I still, to this day, don't remember the words that I said, but apparently it wasn't so bad that they threw me out. So they let me stay and finish a cup of coffee, and then they started networking when that was over. And I was like, man, I wish there would have been some training on how this thing worked, but whatever.
Right.
But I knew when I walked in the room, I was like, there's 100 people in here that's going to buy my stuff, my pills
Right.
and potions, baby. Everybody in here needs what I got, and we just need to talk.
Yeah.
And so I went around and was handing out business cards to everybody in the room just as fast. Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
call me because we need to talk and you need what we have.
Right.
Everyone, and one of them was a weight loss, so
Yeah.
I was a little cautious about how I handed that one out. But anyway, but and I was like, everybody in here is going to call me. I'm just rolling the cash to the bank in a wheelbarrow already in my mind. Everybody in that room is going to buy what I got. Because obviously I gave them a business card and I told them to call me because they needed
R-
it.
Right.
And I was the last person to leave the room, and as I was walking out the room, I looked down, and just beside the door was a trash can, and all of the business cards that I had handed out were laying in that trash can. And I was like,
Mm.
hmm. Well, the people are gathered together. There's a way that this thing works, but the way that I approached it was not going to be effective, and it was not going
Wow.
to work. I got to
Yeah.
learn this thing, and
Just
so
like
I
anything else.
dedicated
Yeah.
the rest of my career to
Yeah.
figure out what works and what doesn't. And I tried a bunch of stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I found some things that do work. And I found that networking can be fun and can be
Right.
enjoyable. And if you get in the right environment and you coach people up and you give them the space to learn how to be more effective in networking,
Mm.
they can enjoy the journey. And I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with what they did. I just came in unprepared. So the reason that I wrote this book was after 30 years of networking professionally for 17, right?
Right.
Um, there are things that you can do that can increase your influence, help you be more influential and be more effective with building your network because I think that your network and your net worth are closely correlated. The people
Mm.
that you hang out with and, the folks that you spend most time with, that helps indicate kind of where your net worth is. But your
Mm.
network kind of helps open up new doors if you need to get a new network, right? So
Right.
so what I've done is for, like I said, for 30 years, been taking notes and God made me a slow reader. I don't know why, but he did. But so what I do is I appreciate books that cut out all the fluff. So this is a brief, this is the summary, this is the cliff notes of 30 years of networking that
Yeah.
it's what I have found, and again, I'm not creating anything brand new. There's nothing new on the planet. I learned this from other people. I learned some of it, from personal experience, but I wanted to share these 10 tips on how you can be more effective and enjoy the journey while you go through it, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so if I can help one person avoid just a couple landmines, just don't do this, then it's a win for me. And so I've gotten to a point in life that I want to share some of the stuff that I've learned because I'm an avid reader. I've read tons and tons and tons of books, and people condense their life's journey and their knowledge that they've compiled over an entire lifetime into a book, and they share that knowledge with you. Man, why not take it up? Why not learn
Yeah.
from them? And I
Oh
feel
yeah.
that was part of the reason I wanted to write this book was to be able to give back at some level to say, even if you're a seasoned professional in business and have done a ton of networking, I think there's some pointers that might help you sharpen your game just a little bit. But if you're
Hmm.
new to it or somewhere in the middle, hey, that's why I put this thing together is to be able to just pass on the wisdom that I've been that's been shared with me over the years. So I'm
Yeah.
really
No.
excited about that, and it is available on Amazon. We're going to be doing our big book launch November the 13th. And so
Right.
for a select group of folks, they'll be able to come in and we're going to be telling some tales and should be pretty fun. So
That's great. Yeah, no, it's good. I think you've done a really great job. I mean, your organization is fun. I think that's what makes, it's really great networking and it's stuff for when a company gets involved with GMA, I think that they're usually surprised. Wouldn't you say because of the
oh yeah.
tours, because of the meetings, because of the way, just the amount that you learn and the amount of fun that you have? And it's not just about sharing insights, but you really have a formula. You're talking about storytelling earlier. Like you're a storyteller as well. Like you get in there not just to tell the stories of these manufacturers that you're visiting on tours and things like that, but really you're breaking down like this is how the information is going to help you guys members
Mhm.
survive and thrive. And
Right.
so we're looking for those high level, points that we're going to walk away from today with.
Mhm.
And or this person has this that you need to connect with because you have, that it's always like that survive
Mhm.
and thrive
Yeah.
and it's different. It's not a directory that you go and put your thing on the website and you just appear there. Like
Mhm.
there's probably a lot of misconceptions or folks that are out there that are trying to like, you know, do something different that,
Mhm.
but it's not that. I think that's the thing I always try to tell people is like, no, if you're in manufacturing, Georgia Manufacturing Alliance is different. Like y'all are going to Daniel Defense and Kia. Like I see y'all like all
Mhm.
around the state doing
Yeah.
stuff that's fun, and
Yeah. And that's
hitting up.
that's being different is one of the things that I said as we set this thing up. I mean, I found it in, again '08, and I went around and was just getting it established in most associations. All associations that I'm a part of are nonprofit, right? Because they do
Mm,
one of two things. Or they do
right.
both. They do lobbying or they do education and certification. So if you're in SHRM to be a certified HR professional, you have to get this education and you got to come to their annual convention to get the continuing ed points and blah, blah,
Got
blah,
it.
blah, blah. So
Got
that's
it.
a structure is education. The other
Yeah.
structure is they lobby for the voice of the industry.
Hmm.
I don't play well in the sandbox, political things. I do have a political opinion, rest assured, but I knew that there was a reason that I didn't go down that path. I didn't understand it fully, but now, actually, Clyde gave me some very good instructions early on about, well, if you don't have to be, you ought not be a nonprofit because if you
Hmm.
take all the stuff out of it. So we did. We've recently toured Daniel Defense. I'm a big shooter, love guns. My wife thinks I have enough, but I don't think enough and guns should ever be in the same sentence. But I love guns, and Daniel Defense has been a long time sponsor and partner of GMA. And then we've toured Kia. Kia's been a partner since they started, right, in '08.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then Starbucks has been almost that long. And if
Wow.
you look at the political spectrum, that's about as big a tent as you can pitch in Georgia, from Starbucks to Kia to Daniel Defense. That
Right.
touches all sorts of places. But the cool
Yes.
part about GMA is when you can get those industry professionals to talk to each other, to sit down at the same table and share best practices. Man, that's magic. That doesn't happen
Yeah.
anywhere else in Georgia,
That's
right?
right.
And that's the
Yeah.
cool piece is being able to help those professionals, no matter what their political agenda is or background or experiences. When when we share best practices and we share experiences and are there to help support each other. I believe if it's good for manufacturing and good for Georgia, I'm all about it. Anything outside of that, I don't spend much time on it, right? So
Yeah,
that's the vibe that we try to make sure that we help continue to support.
you guys do a great job with that, and I do think that the book is a great entry point for folks to get to
Mhm.
know you and what you're about, and then get some stuff out of it that they can. It's very practical. I mean, you told me a lot of the hacks, over the years, so I can almost give the testimonial, knowing, having read the book and looking back over the previous years of all the times that I called you to help me. A lot of the
Mhm.
advice is the same. Um, and some incredible things happen. I wish that I could take people back in a time machine and show them the difference that your strategies, I wouldn't say tactics, but
Mhm.
strategies maybe and tactics, that just get such great results for people. I'm talking about, like, one of the hardest things to do is to get people in the state of Georgia to come see a documentary film, that because documentaries do not come here.
Right.
And being from here and having the movie funded here, we wanted to make sure that we did bring it here to AMC theaters and elsewhere for a couple of weeks at least.
Hmm.
And there's a Jason Moss difference. There is the rooms that you did not promote, which were largely empty, and everybody went to see Man of Steel. And then there were the rooms that you did promote, which were packed full.
Yeah.
And you were the difference maker in those 2 weeks. 100%, like 100%. And it was because you're just like, you gave people reason to show up
Mhm.
that they were not going to get from a movie trailer that was trying to promote, a 2 hour movie. They needed, no, here's the practical things that you want to take away from this film,
Mhm.
like, and then I think that you even drove that home even more so, working together through the way that you would conduct Q&As, and you would get the audience involved, and you would make it just so fun and make those events great. Those are some
Mhm.
of the best times I remember looking back on that.
Yeah.
And then over the years, like, I mean, this is how much I trust Jason. We had the 10-year anniversary, I think it was, for American Made Movie. Now it's
Mhm.
about 15 years since we
Yeah.
started it this year. But when the 10-year happened, it wasn't spurred on by us that made the film or anybody. It was a third party organization in Florida, of all things,
Mhm.
that were celebrating it, and he got some people involved that were in the film, that were characters in the film. And you went to the event and I didn't. And so you went on my behalf, and I trusted you 100% to go do that. Like, nope, it's just as much yours as it is
Yeah.
mine. Go knock it out, man. And I would not trust anybody else to do that but you, sir. So
Well, I
thank you.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. We had a blast. It's hard to believe it's
Yeah,
15 years, man. Wow.
I know it goes by so quick. I have a 13-year-old now that was born when we were a year or two into the movie, I feel like. And so it's kind of crazy. But 2011 is kind of when it started. So if I do my math correctly, next year, 2026, it's like 15 years since the movement began and we
Mhm.
really started working on it. So yeah, it's really kind of like the movement is what to track, while the movie, see, movies have different release dates. So you
Right.
might get to theaters in 2013. There was screenings a year before that. There's
Right.
film fest, there's all these different
Yeah.
things that happened before and after, but the movie started 2011 for me. So that's
Hmm.
when my life changed. And when we
Yeah.
started bringing the people together, that's when New Balance shoes, last athletic shoe manufacturer, signed on, Louisville
Hmm.
Slugger, Viking Range Corporation, when we really started to know that, oh, we're going to make a difference because of the stories that we're going to get to tell, you
Right.
know, uh, meeting Mark Andel, who unfortunately passed away this last year.
Hmm.
um, it's crazy, but a lot of stuff's happened. A lot of things, a lot of time went by,
Yeah.
and life's definitely different. But it is fun looking back every once in a while and going, "Wow, we did a thing, didn't we?" I mean,
Yeah.
there was snow made in the USA, and then we
Right.
definitely rode the wave, and there was. So
Yeah.
people can debate it all day long, but I,
Hmm.
you know, I know how much press we got. I know how much we were out there, and I
Yeah.
know the people that were working behind the scenes to tie organizations like even Scott Paul's Alliance for American Manufacturing,
Hmm.
AAM, and
Hmm.
others that came on board that really just got so much stuff done.
Oh yeah.
So manufacturing, and I love coming out to, GMA events anytime
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can. So I
So
just
what are you
want to,
most excited about coming up? Now we've talked about the past 15 years. What you got on the radar for the next 5 or 15?
I am trying to be really super present because things change. So I'm really in the season now where, kids are in middle school, making sure that we stay consistent with church and doing all the family things.
Right?
That's really the exciting time of life right now. So
Yes.
nothing that's like super, you know, I can't say, I'm always working on something
Hmm.
that has a potential to be like crazy, but
Hmm.
I'm trying to be as guided as I possibly can because I'm the kind of person that will create a full-time job by Friday and then I have to go work it and you go, why did I do this? Um,
Yeah.
so the things that we do now, I think it's very filtered,
Mhm.
where we try to we try to choose clients very carefully,
Right.
and we're almost interviewing clients as much as they're interviewing us.
Right.
Because over the course of the years, you learn like you don't need a client, you need a better client.
Right.
You need someone like the guy you were talking to who sponsored the event, who was giving you rocket fuel, giving you the book, and giving you insight, and believed in you,
Hmm.
and and saw you for the value that you were at. If you want someone to solve your marketing problems and do what every other marketer does, go please do that.
Right.
I'm not looking to do that anymore. I'm looking to really partner with the companies that we're with, and I mean it like all the way down to a legit partnership
Yeah.
with equity stake or some sort of a percentage where it we have skin in the game. And
Right.
when we have skin in the game, everybody wins because I'm not going to fail
Hmm.
myself,
Right.
and I'm not going to take a check and not deliver. And the marketing world's so screwed up already that we don't need any more of that.
Yes.
There's so many
There's a lot of
funnel
that out
hack
there.
people
Yeah.
online and all that stuff, and it's just I don't even want to offer that.
Mhm.
I don't even like the word marketing for most part. But we're a creative agency. We have 5 partners already that are signed on board. I have a business partner in this endeavor who's got equity stake in what we're doing, and I have
Hmm.
equity stake in what we're doing. So it is it's different. It's very different than the way that we were creating stuff a few years ago. But I feel like that's where we're at.
Yeah.
You want to, as creatives, and knowing how much the market changes, IP is pretty much everything. You need to own the stuff that you create. You don't need
Mhm.
to, you're going to always have to pay the bills through work for hire, but you do not want to end up in a freelance situation because, you trade one boss for 5 bosses and they're all your clients. So you have to be
Mhm.
very careful. So
Yeah.
I am excited by just walking into this new season of life, starting a business at 45 years old, and knowing that a lot of the standards and rules and entrepreneurial things are myths, and
Right.
everybody's pretty much an island. And you can kind of go and make your own way however you want to. You need
Hmm.
to make sure that the P&L statement works out and that you're feeding your family.
Right.
But pretty much everything else is just deal making. And it's like, okay, well, what works for you? What works for me? I think that's kind of the walk away for me in this season is to
Mhm.
realize like I made some good deals, I made some bad deals.
Right.
Um, and I want to make less bad deals and more good deals. And we do that by doing what we're really good at. And then I'm also excited because of my own personal story and history in the recovery world, which kind of ties into part of our healthcare business, to tell more of those stories from recovery ministries and nonprofits and for profits, and just making sure that we help elevate the problem and issue there. Everybody
Hmm.
knows addiction and substance abuse and the opioid crisis and all the headlines and all the things and the
Hmm.
fentanyl overdoses and all this kind of stuff. But even, facts and figures and news sound bites does not make families whole again.
Right.
That that happens by networking families to the facilities that they need to be able to find. And I just know from
Absolutely.
personal experience that when you're in families in crisis and you don't even know what drug abuse is or substance abuse is, um, and then you find yourself like really dealing with the real thing, you
Hmm.
know, you don't know where to go or what to do. And
Hmm.
so I kind of want to take a flashlight and shine it on some of that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what that looks like. I know we're working it out right now, but I know
Right.
that's also a part of things. And I'm
Yeah.
excited by that as far as ministry component to things.
Hmm.
So we'll see where that goes. I don't know if it's a show. I don't know if it's a podcast. I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
software as a service business. It could be all three,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
that's definitely on my radar too. I
Yeah.
and I know I'm talking a lot, but why start one business when you can start seven?
47. Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
Why
Might as
not?
well. Might as well.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Well, I'm excited to be working with you on any of that stuff that I can. I mean, that's the part of the piece that I always circle back around to is what does your network look like? Who do you know? And who knows you? I think is more as important, if not more important. Not about who you know, but who knows you.
Yeah,
And
I
and
think
if there's something that comes up and somebody says, I need somebody for whatever that is, if you're the person in their Rolodex that they call first, then you're able to direct people and help people avoid a couple landmines and be able to give first. I mean, it's been written in a good book a long time ago, and it talks about, you need to have a mindset to give first and give abundantly. Now, what it says is
that's
it
right.
says, pack down and mount it over because the level at which you give, it'll be given to you, right? And that's that stuff. Again,
Well, it's
timeless truths don't change, you know.
That's true. Yeah, service is where it's at, man. And I think, a lot of times, it my I do give a lot of my time. I value time more than I even do treasure at this point,
Right.
but because I don't have so little of it. But the, you know, going and volunteering for youth group on Wednesday nights has
Hmm.
nothing to do with my career aspirations. It
Right.
is and I think that when you could find things that you can go volunteer for and it's not even your thing, like you have no
Hmm.
personal you're not. I mean, I get a lot out of it actually. That's very
Right.
surprising, but I'm not in it for that reason.
Hmm.
Um, that's kind of that's what we need to look for is just those opportunities to where's the need at, and
Hmm.
that you learn in service when you're serving others. And I think that is to answer your previous question of where are we going in the future. I think that is where my interest lies the most is that
Right.
I am very blessed to look back in the past and go, you know what? I got nothing to complain about. I'm very
Oh
grateful for
man,
that
yeah.
career I had. I'm very grateful I got to make films. I mean, who gets to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Um, you know, it maybe didn't match the crazy expectations in my head, but I'm not going to think about that anymore. I'm going to
Well,
go, no, grateful for that. It's good.
yeah.
Now, into the future, knowing how much of a benefit service is to others and how much I get out of it by serving
Mhm.
others, where are the opportunities and how can I be open to be guided to be like, okay, Lord,
Yeah.
you
Show me.
write,
Yeah.
let the writer write, and I'm going to just kind of watch and figure this thing out. And it's so hard to do as a man, Jason, especially a
Hmm.
driver or entrepreneur. But as
Yep.
as as recent as last weekend, we were driving in the car, and I turned to my wife and I go, I feel like I'm like this behind the wheel, and great stuff's happening, and things I could not have possibly put together on my own have come to be, and things are forming, and I'm in the room, and I know that I'm contributing, but it does not feel like I
Right.
orchestrated half of what's happened in the last couple months.
Hmm.
And I looked at her and I go, when does God want me to take the wheel, though? And
Right.
she's like, well, maybe never. I don't know. As
Maybe
long
not.
as it keeps
Yeah.
going, maybe not. And because I'm like, I feel like I'm here. Okay, are you ready for me to take over now? Are you ready for me to take over now? And it's been so great just to kind
Oh
of
no.
go,
Yeah.
I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to start
Yeah.
showing up and offer value and try to help and love people and
Yeah.
serve people. And I think the work kind of takes care of itself. I think
Hmm.
that he's set before us, the things that we're supposed to be a part of and we're supposed to do.
Hmm.
And man, when I look back at some of the highlight reel, if I'm honest, like I might talk a big show, but I know that wasn't me.
Oh man.
You know what I mean?
You ain't kidding. You ain't kidding. I mean, and one of the things that we both have been blessed with is great people in our lives, and one that we share is Clyde Strickland.
That's right.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
what
for
a
sure.
guy. I mean, that guy is awesome. He has
Yeah.
mentored me in so many ways, and we sit down and we talk, several times a week by text for sure, and by phone pretty often. And he has just poured into me and poured into me and poured into me, and it's really cool. I want to be able to give back at some level in some of those ways. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but we're blessed to have that piece for sure in life.
Yeah, great mentors,
Good
good
dude.
friends. I mean, you don't need you do not need to put on show. And I always tell people, in this world where approval is it's really a high price tag for the approval of others.
Hmm.
Because half the time you don't even get it.
Right.
And the way that people talk about others behind their back
Hmm.
should be like I want to talk about you behind your back. I want to be saying really good things because I
Right.
really want to say, I really want people to treat me the way I want to be treated. I really want
Hmm.
people to think about me the way I want to be thought about. And so that's my duty is
Right.
to tell a better version of the story than reality,
Right.
and then have people wonder like, was he being kind? Like I'd rather
Hmm.
tell if I'm going to fabricate, I'd rather fabricate on that side.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that when others talk about people behind their back, we all know that whoever they're talking about, they're talking to me about somebody else, they're talking about me to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
They're talking
Absolutely.
about everybody behind their back. And they're not even talking about those people. What they're
Hmm.
talking about is their own insecurities, right? And
Yep.
things like that.
Every time.
So approval, like usually you will waste, and I have personally wasted so much time trying to gain the approval of people who who just did not matter in the
Oh
big
yeah.
scheme of things because they really were just so uh about themselves and
Mhm.
so insecure about gaining the approval of others because of a fear of rejection. And so
Mm.
it was keeping them, from moving forward or whatever. It's such a trap that I tell people today that you need about six dudes to carry your coffin.
Right. Yep.
You need six homeboys, get you
Hmm.
six, and
Right.
or your foxhole brothers or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
But you need some mentors and some guys that really, really, really care about you. And if you
Mhm.
find yourself, chasing or seeking after the approval of somebody, even because they have a seminary degree or because they're a CEO or because they bought a cooler car than you can buy, I
Mhm.
promise you, it ain't also it ain't roses over there.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff you don't know, you don't see. Do not, if you're a younger guy or even an older guy, just you cannot waste 1 second on
Yeah.
any of that kind of thinking or any of that kind of thought. And I just thought I'd throw that in there because as we talk
100%.
about mentors, choosing your mentors means that they choose you back. And
Right.
so Clyde chooses you back. If you
Yeah.
forget to text Clyde, he's going to text you. And, he's going to get, and if you don't call him, he's going to call you.
Right.
He'll chase you down if he is your mentor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And he does it for love because he wants to make sure that you're, between the bumpers, right? I
that's
mean,
right. Yeah. You're not
because
going off in
because
the
because
deep end.
because we've all had opportunities to go chase stuff that we didn't need to be chasing, and we might not want to discuss it with our mentor, right? And then, it's
Right.
they have magical ways to draw that back in and have that conversation, even if you didn't want to, right? And
That's
that's
the best thing about it.
that's where the love is, I think, and being able to give that piece back to folks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, we're all on this journey together in some way. And it's great just to have people that you can call whenever you need anything.
Yeah.
You got your folks that you can call from 9 to 5, then you got the folks you can call at 3 a.m. You know,
Right. Right.
and I'm glad to say that you're one of my 3 a.m. guys.
Always.
I
Always.
know that I could reach
Yeah.
out
Hmm.
any time and you would be there because you're that kind of friend, and I really appreciate that, my man.
And we're fortunate to have folks in our life like that. One of the things that I set up last year, or actually, excuse me, 4 years ago, was the manufacturing mastermind. And I had visions of it, what I wanted it to be,
Hmm.
and why people would come. Well, people will get involved with it. Top level executives and manufacturers don't have anywhere that they can go talk to each other,
Hmm.
or they can't talk about their problems. They can't talk downline to their team if they're because they're supposed to have all the answers and there's nobody upline to go talk to, right? So they
Right.
don't, they're just kind of in an island. So I put this mastermind together like a Vistage, but specifically for manufacturers.
Mm. Cool.
And I had the Vistage vision long term to be able to build this big, massive organization. Well, what it's ended up turning into is guys got into it for the business and the business results, and they got that. But more importantly, it built friendships and relationships and a safe spot for guys to come in and just talk about. And we have talked about probably as much personal stuff and family and issues, right? That
Hmm.
we can't talk about anywhere else. And
Right.
the dynamic is phenomenal. I mean, we're going to open up a couple. I'm actually going to set a second set of those up because the group that we've got now, it would be odd to plunk somebody in that, but we're going to open
Gotcha.
up another one because it's again, it's a ministry to be able to give people a place that they can go really talk about stuff, no
Yeah.
matter what it is. Because when you shut the door, nothing goes outside of that room
Yes.
once we have those conversations, and
You know,
it's very
Seth
valuable.
Seth Godin has a great quote in his "This Is Marketing" book where he basically just lays it out like people like us do things like this, and that is his definition of culture: is people like us do things like this.
Mhm.
And I use it in all sorts of ways because it's just one of those universal truths. It's very simple and dialed in. It's like, why are they wearing those pants? Well, people like us do things like this. It could be like that level. And
Right.
it's also like manufacturers, all working in the same industry, deal with the same problems and the same kind of issues. And when they
Mhm.
get into a room with each other, the things that they can't go learn at the conference are usually like, how do you work this job and do what we do in family and with my wife and with my kids, and what's that look like? And you
Mhm.
know like if you're a traveling salesman, like only a traveling salesman is going to be able to
Understand. Yeah.
understand, or only, an addict is only going to understand another addict. Everybody else is going to, a creative person. Really, like half the time I'm talking, and some people will listen to the podcast and be like, is he ADD? Whatever you want to call it now, I'm all over the place. He's hopping topics. My brain is a puzzle that even I don't understand, but I know it creates some pretty cool stuff. So I
Yeah.
just roll with it, you
Yep.
know.
Yep. Yep.
But when I get into a room with other creatives, I feel like, oh, you're
Oh,
my
these are
people.
like me.
We're
Yeah.
we're we're finishing each other's sentences. You're not telling me to hush. You get it. Like, oh,
Right.
okay. And then you go, I'm not the ugly duckling after all. Actually, I fit in,
Mhm.
and so everybody needs to find their people. And then when they do, then it's on, game
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. You are going to laugh out loud at two or three places in rocket fuel, and I want you to call me when you're laughing.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I'm going to get it right on Audible right now.
And have your wife listen to it with you because she will need to understand why you're finally got the key to unlock the lock.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. She
It's
she would love
that good.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, dude,
I'm
this is all of what I was hoping it to be and more. And I don't know that I've ever
absolutely.
done a session like this. Feel like I don't know that I'm ever going to be Joe Rogan, but this is really neat to be able to just hang out and catch up and hopefully share some stuff that people can benefit from. And,
I
and,
think
and
so.
guys,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this at any level, watching any of the bits and pieces, and got some feedback from it, please let us know through social media, through LinkedIn, through the notes on Manufacturing News Network. We're going to publish it both on Manufacturing News Network. We'll put little snippets, I guess, on LinkedIn on some of the highlights. And if you got somebody that you feel that could benefit from this, understand that we all have been given gifts. We have
Mm.
opportunities placed in front of us, and we have the opportunity to connect with people that can add value in our lives, and we can add value too. And so,
Oh
if you
yeah.
have the opportunity to do that, I'm gonna, I've said it a million times, I'll say it a million more. call somebody that needs a call today. Just take a minute. Take a minute, make a phone call. Um, you have no idea how big of an impact that'll make,
That's right.
right?
Yeah,
So
you have
just
said it
take,
all. And buy the book. Go buy the book.
and buy the book. Yeah. Yeah.
Buy
You
the
can buy it
book.
on Amazon.com. If you want
Top.
the Audible version of it, you can go to manufacturingyournetwork.com and get the digital and audio. Right now it's for $4.99, but it won't be that way forever. And then the printed copy if you want a printed copy on Amazon. But Nathan, again, thank you so much, brother. You have been awesome. I appreciate all your help, and
Thank
looking
you.
forward to another fun 15. Right.
That's right. All right, man. We'll
All
see
right,
you.
brother. You take care. See you.
Cool. Bye.